Speak the number one exercise to lower your blood pressure. This exercise has beaten cardio in 270 different studies. That music involved almost 16,000 people. And the winner was an exercise that involved no motion whatsoever. All you need is the wall right behind you as you underpause watching this video. The absolute best exercise to lower the systolic blood pressure that won over every other exercise was a type of exercise called the wall sit or wall squat. This is an isometric exercise. That means you underpause re not moving, but you underpause re contracting your muscles. I'm going to explain it thoroughly. Virtually every single person watching can actually perform this exercise, but what was really shocking to me is over 50% of the adults in the US have high blood pressure, and most of them don't even know it. And etandipos earned its name the silent killer because a lot of times you don't feel high blood pressure. Now isometric exercises, especially for blood pressure, are completely underneath the radar. They were not really recommended by a clinical practitioner or a physician because when they initially studied isometric exercises way back in the day, they found that this exercise increased blood pressure. So they automatically ruled it out and actually told people not to do isometric exercises for blood pressure because it was going to worsen the problem. And this also filtered through certain scientific committees. And so this is a thing that you did not want to prescribe for anyone with a heart problem or high blood pressure at all. Not based in any long-term studies, just some initial observations. And a tremendous amount of research in the area of exercise involves observational studies which are not nearly as credible. The tandapose, basically where they don't really recommend anything, they just observe the data. And so those things are then associated with some outcome. But the andapose were just good guesses. Then when they finally did the research, they found that that high blood pressure was very temporary. But of course, in the meantime, they recommended cardio. In 2023, the British Journal of Sports Medicine published a study where researchers gathered 270 randomized control trials. They pulled them together. They got just under 16,000 people involved, which is quite a large group of people. So this is what they found in the study, and this is relating to bringing down systolic blood pressure. That Ndapo is the top number. Combination training brought the systolic pressure down just over 6 points. Resistance training brought the systolic blood pressure down just slightly more than 4.5 points. Aerobic 4.5 points drop. High intensity interval training brought it down by 4 points. But check this out. The isometric training, specifically the wall sit, brought the blood pressure down more than 8 points. But they also found other types of isometric training that were slightly less than the walls, but they were better than the other types of workouts. Quite fascinating. Now, I do have to say one thing about the diastolic blood pressure. If your diastolic blood pressure is the one that tandapose high, cardio was the one that brought the diastolic down the best. Okay, I just want to point that out. But most people have a problem with the systolic, which is the top number. Andapose, I'm not against any of these. In fact, I do all of these right here. So you just want to include this extra one right here if you want more specific systolic blood pressure decrease. There was a meta-analysis in the Lancet, 123 studies, 613,000 people they found when you lower the blood pressure by 10 points. Major cardiovascular events dropped by 20%. Coronary heart disease went down by 17%. Stroke went down by 27%. Heart failure went down by 28%, and death from all causes went down by 13%. That Ndapos is just dropping the blood pressure down by 10 points. And so this isometric exercise, the wall sit was 8 points, which is not far away from the 10-point drop. I have a free download that I want to give to you. Speak. This free download is my daily routine in a checklist. This is a routine that I use every day to feel like Iandapos. I'm 18 years old, even though Iandapos am 60 years old. And I want to give it to you for free. And so the Randapos is a little link down below. Click it and definitely download that. Now, I do want to actually mention one additional thing. There are a lot of randomized controlled drug studies on blood pressure, and a lot of them individually will show a decrease in blood pressure right around 8 points. So this isometric exercise compares to a single drug effect reduction in blood pressure. Now, right there, doctors should be recommending this to help reduce blood pressure, but of course, etandapose not on the radar yet. Usually consensus or mainstream is about 10 to 15 years behind what Ndapos happening in actual research. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, and this is very important, how can an exercise that provides no movement lower your blood pressure? You underpost are in a seated position against the wall. The blood pressure is going up. How is that going to lower your blood pressure? What you underpost are doing when you underpost are contracting those muscles is you and apost are creating this sustained contraction. The tandapos squeezing down on those vessels or those pipes, restricting blood flow, very similar to having a kink on your water hose. And so when you then stand up, you release the contraction or the constriction and the blood flow comes back in rapidly. Suddenly the velocity of that blood flow that gets released rushes through the blood vessels against the inner lining called the endothelial lining, and then it turns on a certain mechanism that spikes something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a very powerful vasodilator. It relaxes the blood vessels. All the resistance through the blood vessels is lowered. Now the blood pressure is coming down. So when you do the exercise, you underpost, going to do 4 of them in a row, each for 2 minutes, resting 2 minutes. Between those exercises, you do those 3 times a week. The tandapost, 24 minutes a week of exercise, your arteries are going to become more and more relaxed. What you underpost are really doing over a period of time is you underpost remodeling the artery. You underpost are also changing the nervous system. Thandapos is controlling those blood vessels. And so the reason why the wall sit is the best exercise is you underpost, working the largest muscles of your body, your thigh muscles and your glute muscles. So the bigger the muscle you and apost working on, the bigger the drop in blood pressure. So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, the underpost, I'm not biased to my own high quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you underpost will find more information. Now, the single biggest reason why people quit this exercise is because tandapost is actually quite difficult for some people. The key thing is the knee angle, okay? And then what you underpost going to do is you underpost going to start out at a 135 degree. The tandapost basically almost with your knees extended fully, okay? We underpost, we're just slightly bending the knees down. And then if they can tolerate that after 2 minutes, the underpost will drop down 10 degrees lower. Okay, so we underpost, we're going to gradually do this every 2 minutes until you balance the difficulty of doing this with the intensity. So a tandapost not too intense, a tandapost not too easy, and your underpost are able to do it for 2 minutes. So the goal is over time to strengthen your body so you can actually do this wall set at 90 degree. So what determines the intensity is you underpost are able to have a conversation without straining your voice, without shaking. So you want to feel like you underpost are in control. You want to breathe steady. Don't underpost, hold your breath, okay? You underpost are going to slowly breathe in and out through your nose. If for some reason your knees are really arthritic and the underpost very bad, you can do the isometric hand grip training, and the underpost, he'll put a link down below for a video on that. I highly recommend you get a quality blood pressure cuff to monitor your blood pressure before and after the exercise, and also through the day as well. So this is all very interesting. It's a great technique. It's going to help a lot of people. But what's really at the root of high blood pressure, and how can we actually address the root cause of it using lifestyle factors? For that information, you need to watch this video right here. Check it out.